PACE program itself, the basic premise is to give students an opportunity to get involved with their community. We felt like there were a lot of academic options that really, you learn a lot in the classroom, but you don't get a chance to actually get out and do it. And so one of the main tenets of our program is theory into practice. The idea that we look at something and go, okay, this is how it works. Now let's actually go do it. And one of the big ways that we do that is through our issues forum, and that's what the majority of our presentation is going to be on today. But before we get there too much further, I know Jolene wants to talk a little bit about what actually the Political and Civic Engagement Program is as a certificate program.
In case any of you want the example of what this is, it's a 25-credit undergraduate certificate. It started from a 15-credit minor in leadership, ethics, and social action that we got donor funds, and he decided he wanted to prepare students for political and civic engagement, and so we made this certificate. The two core courses in public leadership and making public decisions are meant to cover the individual interacting as leader in the community and in the nation, and then how it is to have community decision-making and deliberation, what that process is like. But the Making Public Decisions course also covers the structure of the polity, like the different organizations at each level. The students are able to choose classes as electives, so if a political science major were taking this, they could count a variety of political science courses as electives, maximum of 2 from one department. They could also take communication and culture courses. They could take the public and environmental affairs course, for instance, negotiation and alternative dispute resolution. We have a long list of electives that I can count. The idea is that each student crafts their own path through this certificate, especially with the internship. So when they choose the electives and then they choose the internship, we have a very mentored internship experience. I coach that also, and they could choose from nonprofit to governmental positions. The Issues Forum we conceived as a 1-credit sort of retreat and community building experience. So last year, our first year with this program, we weren't stable enough, we felt, to have the Issues Forum, but the students said, we want to do it this year, and we want to plan it, because this is what you get from having a student advisory board. So we did plan it for last year. They will talk a little about that. The final component is the capstone seminar. We'll have our first capstone seminar this fall. We have about 15 students taking the capstone this coming year. We have 60 students so far who have chosen it. As I said, it's only the second year, and we anticipate it growing by leaps and bounds in the future, according to the interest we have now. So this is from last year. We had an article in the College of Arts and Science magazine, and you'll see that our plans were to organize it in the second year, but the students couldn't be held back. So we had an Issues Forum last year on coping with the cost of healthcare, which is a National Issues Forum topic. This was a picture from last year. And so the Issues Forum itself is 1 credit hour for 1 day-long experience, but they do a reading beforehand and write a reflection. And then afterwards, they write a position paper and a reflection on their experience. So in order to make sure they're doing the reading, they do a reading reflection first, they come to the day-long experience, and then they turn in a position paper, which I grade, which also has a process and metacognitive reflection in it. And basically, it's a practice in deliberation and dialogue. The innovative part of this is that we ask students on our student advisory board to plan and facilitate it with faculty members as coach. 1 or 2 of us meet with them regularly. That was our poster for this year.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of talk about kind of the initial planning stages and how we kind of got started planning the forum for this year. First off, the issue we picked was immigration. And basically, we were initiated by Jolene. She sent out an email to people in the PACE program asking for the together a planning committee, and we were some of the people that responded. There were a few more than us in the committee itself. So we met to discuss possible topics for the forum, and we really wanted to pick something that was really relevant to the student body and really relevant to the state, and something that could have varying opinions and discourse that's all legitimate. And so coming up with immigration, we pulled this out of a long list of issues, things like environment, education, affordable education. And we picked this as the most relevant issue to Indiana and to IU at the time. And a lot of that was because of Senate Bill 590, which was an immigration bill going through the Indiana legislature that mirrored the Arizona law that was passed last year. So, So after we pick our topic, we start getting into the logistics of the day and how we were going to facilitate everything and get the process going. And we really wanted to make a civic environment and create a space where students would feel comfortable enough to express their opinions and feel comfortable enough to come together and talk with everyone else about it. And so in designing the day, we really wanted to stimulate people's minds and stimulate your thinking so that this all comes out.
As a general logistics thing, when did we actually start the planning process?
It was late October.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was actually one of the only people that had been on the planning committees for both the first and the second. The first year we started right after the semester break, right before the semester break, which was late December, and that was much too rushed of a process. This year, by starting in late October, we gave ourselves a lot more breathing room, and I think it ultimately led to a much better product.
Because the forum is on Saturday in mid-February.
And so giving yourself more breathing room if you wanted to try and implement this on your campus is definitely a plus. So.
Yeah, and saying that, another thing that we really tried to do was look at the forum that we had the first year and see what we could improve on it and really what went wrong with it and how we could make it a lot better. And I think we did a lot better this year in picking our panel and everything like that.
Learning objectives. Thanks, Luke. So we really wanted, the big picture for us was to use the Issues Forum as a vehicle to induce and increase civic engagement throughout our campus. And our main goal was to facilitate the Issues Forum, but not kind of stand up and exude leadership to say, this is what we think should happen, this is some resolutions that we looked at, we want you all to go out and do it. It was more to get them to kind of listen to all the different perspectives, get their minds open and start the thinking process, put the thinking caps on, and also to kind of, open up their mouths and get the students to have conversations and dialogues and, try to address some of the fears and stereotypes that follow immigration in particularly, and eventually, hopefully, come up with some preliminary resolutions.
And what you'll notice here is we've taken out of our list of the objectives for the program the ones that were relevant for the Issues Forum. Overall, the goals for the PACE program emphasize effective citizenship and for civic skills, working with people who are different from yourselves and listening to them is a big one, while taking informed and principled stands yourself. So combining those two for this Issues Forum was interesting.
And one thing that we actually did, I think, much better the second time around was incorporating the learning objective into the actual planning process. So as we're planning, as we're thinking about how we want the day to go along, we were really focusing, we go back to these and say, this is what we want to guide our planning. The first year, we kind of left those planning goals until the day of, and that wasn't quite as coherent. It's a much more consistent program, I think, if you really are trying to incorporate these objectives throughout.
And I'll just add one thing. Even though I'm on the student advisory board and heavily involved in PACE, I was actually on an internship from January until May. So I did not have a huge role in the planning process. I came back for the Issues Forum and was just kind of brought up to speed. So they may seem a little bit more educated about, not necessarily educated, but just, you know, they're informed on kind of what's going on in the coffee industry. So.
Well, you did your part in the fall. John was on an internship in the fall in DC, and he came back in the spring and helped. We have to accommodate the student schedules, and they're going on internship one semester and coming back sometimes. So we try and keep them up to speed.
Part of the problem with having a program with civically engaged students is that they tend to be civically engaged.
So the point of the dialogues in the small groups, because we did start with a big group and then break into small groups and give more people a chance to practice facilitation, is that we wanted to set the goals for that to make a safe space. And Rennie, you didn't facilitate a group this year because you were gone in the fall. So what was your perspective on how the small groups felt when you were having a dialogue?
I thought the small groups were beneficial, particularly because we had a confidentiality clause. When we were in a large group like this, the room was open, you could just raise your hand and speak. But once we broke out into the small groups, everyone agreed, like the last slide said, to be respectful of each other. And we, because the small groups allow people to really open up and who are reserved or shy and have their thoughts and feelings heard. And we just kind of took that in that small group and kind of kept it there. And when we went back to our large group, whoever it was that divulged that information, it was up to them to share that with the large group. So I thought there was like a real sense of community in there and a real sense of connectedness. And like I said, people who were more reserved or shy spoke up. And I think that gave them a sense of empowerment, even though they may not have been as vocal in the large group session.
I was just going to say, I don't know if we've actually said this yet or not. We had, what, 40, 50 students?
This year we had 60.
Yes.
Okay. We had almost 60 students. And so, you know, to get everybody a chance to actually interact with one another, you can't hold an issues forum with that many people. So when we broke up into small groups, we had, what, 7 or 8 per group? Is that about right? Although I think in the future we might go just a little bit bigger, because I think that one thing that we actually really got out of the issues forum that we were at here was that the bigger groups make for a little more diverse dialogue. So.
But we did have a way of trying to ensure intergroup diversity, or intra-group diversity. And we'll talk a little bit about that.
And actually, this is only the second year we've done it. The first year we did it, when we broke out into small groups, there were 4 people per small group. And we didn't know whether that was going to be okay. I was participating that year, and I thought it went really well, but the bigger group this year worked, and I think an even bigger group than that would do more robust dialogue.
And one of the ways that I think that we can really ensure even the people that are very reserved in group settings like that, and we do this already, but I think it's definitely something we want to continue, is on the first round of, you know, what do you see in this issue, what do you value in this issue? We do one where we ask everybody to say something. So as we're speaking to them, you know, what do you see? That way everybody's voice is at least initially heard, and once we've got that initial comfort zone set up, everybody feels a little bit more comfortable to participate.
Of course, we're skipping ahead in our
Sorry.
process. No, but that's what we did. When we met in these groups, we just throw around ideas and see what might work and what we wanted to do. So our first big question after the topic of the day is, what are we going to have as a common stimulus when we have the whole big group together? What are they going to be presented with? Of course, hopefully they all read the Issues Forum booklet, but then this is what we decided on, and how did we go about that?